this is Tina from Shabbydabbydoodah. Welcome back to my channel. So I am here with some modern fabrics and I would like to put them onto a journal cover, or what's going to be a journal cover, and make them look old. So we're going to be looking at, you know, vintaging up and, yeah, just making modern fabric basically look old. So recycling kind of clothes and things like that to make them look old to use in our journals. So I've got here this absolutely gorgeous fabric. I mean, how beautiful is this? Now, this is from an old dress of my daughter's. Yeah, I'm really lucky because she's coming out of that age, really, where she obviously had lots of beautiful, pretty, you know, girly summer dresses. And yeah, I mean, unfortunately, she's kind of favouring jeans and things a bit more now. But yeah, in the past, she really kind of favoured, you know, pretty dresses and things like that, or perhaps I favoured them for her. And yeah, let's kind of just have a look at using this. Now, I've also got, this is just like an old jacket. It was actually an old jacket of mine, and yeah, it was one that I wore, you know, to my sister's wedding. And yeah, so I thought let's take this and cut this up and use it with the dress. So I'm going to start by cutting down the fabric ready to use on our cover. So yep, just make it a bit more of a manageable kind of piece there. So let me just get rid of that excess. And I mean, the brilliant thing is actually when you cut these dresses up and things, it's surprising how much fabric there actually is in just a little, you know, little kind of child's dress. Right, so that's that. And then what I'm going to do is just cut this edge off. Now, I like the torn look. Now, oh, this was exactly what I was about to say, is sometimes you've got a right way and a wrong way for tearing the fabric. And, you know, it might not be overly happy to go the other way. So you can see that was a lot more tricky to tear that edge than it was to tear the other edge, if you see what I mean. It is doable, but yeah, it's just kind of not a natural tearing position. So let me just move this down slightly. So, but that's fine. And then I'm just going to take this edge here and do exactly the same. So we're just going to tear this along. Now, again, this is not the natural, you know, the natural tearing position. So yeah, it's, it was a lot better because there was a lot more fabric to hold on to. The other one was just on that little hemmed part. So it was a bit, you know, a bit more tricky. Okay, right. Oops. And sometimes you can have this happen where your fabric then gets, what's the word? Like ruched or ruckered there. Again, it's fine. And you can just kind of pull that back out and, you know, straighten that back out. And, you know, that's all fine then. So like that. Now, just checking my envelope is still fitting in here. Now, I'm just going to make this a very kind of rough and ready cover. I'm not going to be too worried that obviously I'm going to have it overhanging my edges. Now, this edge here, I'm just going to cut down because, of course, to tear this little tiny strip would be probably near on impossible. So we'll just cut that down. Okie dokie. Right. Now I'm just going to glue my flap down of my envelope. Again, you know, this isn't really essential because obviously our cover's going to be, you know, stitched around and closed up anyway. So, you know, it's not really kind of an essential thing to do, but yeah, you may want to do it. And actually, I've just suddenly thought, because these envelopes are actually quite a bit bigger than A4 paper. So I'm just wondering now, actually, whether I could go in slightly. I mean, I don't mind it when my covers are quite a bit bigger because then I think it gives you lots of room to have tabs and things like that. So actually, I'm just going to leave it. Yeah, I'm going to leave it. So all I'm going to do is glue my entire envelope onto that fabric. So let's just go around like that. Now I'm just using my normal tacky glue, the Anita's tacky glue. It's just a wet glue, sort of like a PVA type glue. But yeah, I mean, I find it works pretty well. So we will just go in and glue that down. Okay. Like that. So lots and lots. So as it's glued down, you know, really nicely. Okay. So take that and pop that down. Sort of in the centre, really, of my fabric. Now, best thing to do is obviously turn my fabric over and spread it from this side, because that way I can get rid of any creases. And, you know, I mean, obviously, I don't like ironing, so I have not bothered ironing my cover or, you know, my fabric at all. It's just exactly as I cut it off of my daughter's dress. Now, the only thing that is very annoying, actually, is I've just realised I've now got the, you know, the non-torn edge on the, what would be the front of the cover, which is such a shame, because obviously I would have much preferred to have this rough edge along here. But, you know, that's fine. We can kind of work with that. So, yeah, I'm not going to stress too much about that. I mean, what we could do is actually cut this down, and then we could add, for instance, another strip. Oops, another strip. So as we end up with, you know, a much more, what's the word? You know, what is the word I'm looking for? You know, this roughed edge on our cover. So, you know, we might do that. I'm not sure yet. Shall we do that? Oh, let's do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this with my pinking shears, I think, and cut it sort of close to the actual edge of the journal now. Like that. Okay. So, I mean, this is just like some little kind of tricks that you can do, you know, to get your pieces to kind of work for you. You know, I didn't want to waste the fabric, obviously, by having to tear off more to be able to get that sort of fuzzy edge. But, you know, equally, I didn't want it necessarily to not be fuzzy. So by doing this, I can now get, you know, get something over the top, which will be hopefully fuzzy. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my coffee and I'm going to put some coffee down on here. So I'm just going to bring it in. So this is just some coffee which I've had sat to the side of my desk for a few days. So please excuse the state of the cup. It's obviously been used quite a few times already in other projects. So I'm just going to take my brush. Now, probably could do with a much bigger brush here, but never mind. I'm just going to go with it with this brush. And I'm just going to paste on my coffee. Now, obviously, you know, you could actually, what's the word? Coffee dye your fabric, you know, prior to using it. You could do it definitely prior to gluing it on. You know, it's all up to you. But yeah, don't kind of feel like this is the way that you have to do it. I'm just kind of showing a few different alternatives that you could do. Like I say, I really could do with a much, much bigger brush. This is not a very practical brush to be using at all. So yeah, it's very, very frustrating. This is the biggest brush that I've got left because I've neglected my brushes, and yeah, they've all obviously had to be binned and now could do with replacing. So this is now the biggest brush that I've got left in the pot. Okay. So yeah, let's just go around there. Like that, okay. Like that. And then what you can do is actually dry your cover, or dry this with your heat tool. Now, again, you know, this is just kind of mere suggestions, and, you know, this is just things that I find are kind of like shortcuts. You know, if I don't want to have a big coffee dyeing session in the kitchen, you know, coffee dyeing all my fabric, or perhaps, you know, I think, well, I don't necessarily want to coffee dye the entire dress, you know, the fabric that came off of that dress or whatever. This, for me, just, you know, this is quite a quick and easy way of doing it, because I'm just literally, you know, dyeing the pieces that I actually am wanting dyed. So rather than must coffee dye every every part of that dress. So let's just go all around like that. Okay. I mean, like I say, the biggest problem here is my brush definitely not being big enough at all for the job. So I do apologise if this is a bit of a painful process to watch, but yeah, it was just the biggest brush that I had to hand. And yeah, I didn't want to have to kind of go to the shop before doing this video. So, okay, right. So now I'm going to just dry this off with my heat tool. So literally take my heat tool and just get drying this like that. So I will turn the camera off for this bit. Right, I've dried this off a bit. Now I have to say it's still quite soggy, and you can see the back of the envelope obviously is pretty soggy. But because I'm doing obviously a video, you know, I don't want to kind of just wait and wait and wait. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of plow on anyway. So I'm going to take some of my other fabrics. So for instance, my jacket, let's just cut the sleeve off to give us, you know, something to play with. Okay, now obviously, you know, I think the sleeve is, you know, more than enough, you know, more than ample, yeah, to be getting on with. So I'm just going to cut this away from the, you know, the seam where it's been obviously stitched. Oops, hope I've cut that in the right place. I now can't actually see. Yeah, that is still running along the seam for a minute. I had a horrible feeling that I'd gone completely off to the side and was no longer running down the seam. Right, okay. So I'm just going to kind of like piece some bits of this around on the cover. So let's just take, for instance, here. And again, just, you know, really not kind of paying any attention really to where I'm cutting this or anything else. I'm just, you know, just going with some bits and pieces. So that might be just way too big. Let's just take that down a little bit. Okay. So yeah, let's just kind of like have it something like that. And then what I'm probably going to do is this section here, I'm going to just have maybe like ruffled down that edge, but I'm not going to coffee dye this. I'm going to keep this brighter. Now I might still do a little bit of distressing or something on this so it's not really bright, but I don't want it, you know, as dark as like the underneath side. So yeah, let's do that. And again, just going to take my, so this is my vintage photo. I'm just going to distress that lace a little bit as well, just so that everything's, you know, going to tie in really nicely. So just get the fabric here like that. Okay. Okie dokie. Now the fabric here that I've used for the cover that I have coffee dyed, this will dry lighter. It's obviously still quite dark because it's obviously still quite wet. It will actually dry up, you know, slightly lighter than it's currently looking. So, you know, if you're thinking, oh no, that looks awful, it will, you know, it will dry up a bit lighter than it's currently looking. So I'm just going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm just going to stitch that ruffle around on the edge like that. And then I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back from the sewing machine and obviously it's still not quite dry, you know, it's quite sort of damp to touch. But hopefully you can see. So I've got that little bit of lace kind of just overhanging here on the side. And then I've just got that fabric ruffle, which we just distress inked, but we didn't actually coffee dye. So it's got sort of a contrast between that and obviously the, you know, the coffee dyed section. And then what I've also done, I've got some other lace. So this is much thicker. And this, you know, I just happened to have in my stash and I've coffee dyed this a long time ago. But I'm just going to kind of demonstrate. So obviously I would then cover this with either fabric or maybe, you know, collage up some paper or something like that. And then when you've folded your cover over and you've obviously bound your signature in, which I'm not going to do, you know, here and now. But when you have done that, excuse me, then what I would probably do is take something like this to just put on the edge and cover up where I've stitched the signature in, if that makes sense. So you'd cover up your stitch in, and then what you've got is actually something that looks very, very, very vintage. And then of course you could use a topper on there, or you could just use a book plate. So I'm just going to pull in one of my little metal book plates just to show you how that would look. So you see, even without a topper or anything else, just finish that off with a book plate, maybe a little bow or something. I mean, isn't that just the perfect cover? And that's just gone from that little dress, excuse me, in that bright fabric, which looked quite modern, to now it really does look quite vintage, you know, like something that, you know, you've maybe found kind of up in the attic or something. And I think you could do this with, you know, almost any fabric or any old clothes, really. So let's have a look at another one and do another one. Okay, so I've got this dress here. Now, this dress, I've not even cut it down yet. So I've just literally started cutting across here, but just to kind of show you. So again, another dress of my daughter's. And I'm just going to, again, take this down. So, yeah, I've got roughly, well, just a smaller piece, basically. So it's a little bit easier to actually handle. Haven't tried tearing this, so I hope it's going to tear okay. Yep, it tore fine. So yeah, that was a bit of luck. Right, okay, let me just pull my scissors up. So this time I'm just going with this internal envelope. So, you know, I mean, obviously the envelope type that you use, you know, doesn't matter at all. I personally, you know, this is my favourite, you know, method to make journals is I love doing, you know, using envelopes. I find them, they are just kind of the easiest thing to use. But I mean, of course, you know, use whatever you feel drawn to, or, you know, that you find you get the best results with. So obviously this fabric is pretty crumpled because obviously when the dress, you know, was gathered at the waist, it's made it, you know, very, very crumpled. But that's fine. I'm just going to again cut and tear that hemmed part off. And then again, just going to go here where I'm going to have the edge. I mean, to be fair, we could neaten this. We could have a neater, let's do that. Let's have a neater cover for this one, just to kind of give you, you know, options and show you kind of the differences. So yeah, let's go round here. Again, plenty of glue. And again, just using my tacky glue like that. Okay. Like that. I mean, I have to say, you know, I don't know whether I'm the only person, but yeah, I do find myself buying clothes, you know, both for myself and my daughter actually, with a view to, oh, that would be great to cut up. Oh, I can't wait for her to grow out of that. I can cut it up. Yeah, which, like I say, that was fine, but now she's getting older. She's favouring like sweatshirts and things like that more. So yeah, they're rubbish. How am I going to cut those up and make them look good? Well, how am I going to cut them up full stop? Because of course they're not really going to do anything for a journal, are they? So that's my fabric now. And then all I'm going to do is obviously wrap it round here. So I want to obviously cut down so as I've got less fabric to work with. So let's just tear this along here like that. Okay. And yeah, now in hindsight we can obviously get rid of this because we don't need such a huge amount there either. Okay. Now, depending on your thickness of fabric, I find depends on how I want to do the corners. So this, hopefully you can see on camera, this is very, very thin. It's almost like a silk. You know, it's got no bulk to it whatsoever. So I would be more than happy to have this folded over in the corners. It would not, yeah, it wouldn't add bulk or, you know, seem bulky or anything like that. Obviously, the fabric that I used just now that dress was a lot thicker than this, and that would have, you know, it would have been too bulky really to kind of like have folded over on the corners. So, you know, if I were to use that with a neat edge, I would have to think a little bit more carefully about how I was going to fold that in, you know, to make the neat edge. So I'm just going over here, excuse me, like that, okay. And then for our edges, because this is very thin fabric, I'm happy to just literally fold that in. So all I want to do is just snip this down here and here, just so as I don't have like the overhang of the fabric, if that makes sense. I know this is probably not really making sense, but where you cut it in, you don't want to have like the underneath showing, if that makes sense. So like that, oops, like that. Just like that. Now, obviously, again, this is, you know, this is all kind of like got fabric here. It doesn't matter, because when you come to actually then use the journal, or, you know, use this cover, you're going to then cover up, you know, this section. So this would then just be a completely covered up cover. Yeah, covered up seam. Honestly, I'm not even making sense to myself, so I do apologise. Okay, so then exactly the same with this side. We're going to just take this and we're going to fold it in. So again, I'm just going to cut this down like that. Again, just so as I haven't got that bulk of fabric going in here. So like that. Okay. Okie dokie. Right. So like that. And just take that. You know, you're just trying to make it as neat as you possibly can, really. But like I say, I mean, this edge not being neat, it's not a problem at all, because when we actually come to cover it, you know, that's exactly the point. It's going to be completely covered, so it's not going to be an issue at all. So there we go, like that, and yeah, like that. Okay, so that is that one. Now, which way up was that supposed to be? Not quite sure. I think it probably could go either way, but yeah, let's have it this way. And then what I might do is just do like a little sample to see what this would look like coffee dyed, because, you know, I don't want to coffee dye this fabric if actually then it's not going to look very nice. You know, it's slightly more of a gamble in this green than it was obviously with the ivory, which, you know, the ivory I felt reasonably confident was going to look good. So this is a bit more of a gamble. So let's just take that, paste that like that. Right, now I have to quickly dry this. So what I'm going to do is just leave that on my hot glue gun to dry while I take this to the sewing machine, and we will stitch around this now and then come back to that. But what I'm going to do is marry this up with, I've got this gorgeous lace trim piece. Now this looks to me like it's from a doily, and it was gifted to me by the lovely Sherry. I'm so sorry, Sherry, I can't pronounce your last name. I think it's Reutlinger. I'm not quite sure, so I do apologise, but I received a happy mail from Sherry quite a long time ago. I've been obviously hoarding all the gorgeous things that she sent me in the happy mail, and yeah, I was looking for bits to use with this cover, and I thought, oh, I love how the contrast looks between this bright vibrant green with this really gorgeous coloration, I suppose, of this, what I'm assuming is a doily piece. Now I've also got this, which I've used quite a bit, and I'm thinking we could again marry the kind of bits up. So I'm just going to take this down and just cut a couple of strips from here that I'm wondering whether we could do some sort of ruffly bits just, you know, just going perhaps down the side or something like that. Okay, and then we're also going to use, again, some of that jacket that we used previously to just have some decorative kind of edge going down. Now, again, I'm feeling that this is way too bright to have against this green, so I'm actually going to coffee dye this lace. So again, just going to paste on the coffee. Oh, again, just really could have done with a much bigger brush. So perhaps I'll just dip it in. Oh dear. Right, okay. Dunked it into the coffee now. Right, let's take that out. Okay, well, we are in it for the long term now, aren't we? Or the long haul, because that's just been dunked in. There's no coming back from that. Okay, right, so just going to dry my hands off with a wet wipe, and then just going to dry this coffee dyed piece of lace off. So just quickly dry that. And again, you know, I'm not worrying if I'm screwing this up and kind of like, yeah, I guess screwing it up really, because I'm hoping it's going to actually add to the sort of vintagey texture that I'm going to get from this. So let's just go in with that. Okay. Okie dokie. Oh, why do things take so long to dry when you're doing a video? It's such a slow process, isn't it? You know, you think, oh, I'll just quickly do this, or I'll just quickly do that, and nothing's ever quick when you're wanting it to be quick, is it? Right. Okay. So yeah, it's got a nice, you know, screwed up kind of appearance now. I have to say it's very dark. Now, again, I don't really kind of like do any sort of measuring or anything like that when I tip out my coffee. You know, I just, yeah, suck it and see. So this one is probably a little bit too dark, really. But you know, that's fine. I don't mind how it looks. So I'm going to again just take this to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to stitch a couple of bits to this and stitch obviously around the edge. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so I'm back from the sewing machine, and I just want to kind of show you what I've done. Now, first of all, this obviously is drying now, so you can probably see there's not a great deal of difference between the coffee dyed and the non-coffee dyed. Probably I will coffee dye it just because for me it's slightly yeah, slightly more vintage. This looks slightly more modern. But, you know, I love them both equally. But, yeah, I will probably just coffee dye it. But I will do that off camera to save you, obviously, watching me with that tiny little brush, you know, dragging it out. But just to show you, like, the edge of here, basically. So all I did was I took that lace that we coffee dyed there. I have to say, now I'm looking, I have stitched it upside down. So, unfortunately, I've got the textured part on the facing down. But that's fine. It doesn't look terrible, you know, because you can't really tell. And then I just ruffled on those little pieces of ruffle. Now they were in 3 different bits, so I just kind of joined them together by overlapping them, and that just finishes that off so brilliantly. And then I'm just again going to show you. So if this were, you know, again folded into a journal cover like so, I've stitched on that, you know, what I can only assume is like vintage, you know, vintage piece of doily that the lovely Sherry had sent me. So thank you so much, Sherry. And yes, I apologise that it's taken me so long to get around to using this, but obviously I have been hoarding it and not wanting to use it. But I just couldn't resist using it for this because I thought, oh, it's just going to look so beautiful with this green. So yeah, I'm going to obviously put this somewhere else, but I haven't quite decided yet where it's going to go. So I'm just kind of playing around with that. But I think if I just pull this in with the coffee dyed, it's going to look even better once I've actually coffee dyed up this fabric. But again, just to kind of give you an idea, this is how this would look. And again, if I just pull in, you know, for instance, the metal book plate, you can see, I mean, that's literally all that, you know, you would need to kind of pull this together and just finish it off beautifully. I mean, I've got a gold bow here. So again, just kind of placing the gold bow, you know, anywhere really. Just again to kind of give you ideas and show you how that would look. And, you know, that's taken no time whatsoever to put that together. But it just looks so beautiful, doesn't it? Again, I've got this little strip that we cut off. So, you know, if I wanted to, I could always kind of like ruffle this up and, you know, glue this on there, or, you know, stitch this on there. So you've got plenty of options and things with, you know, what to do with this. Again, you could have, you know, some lace going down the spine edge. And again, you know, you could coffee dye this lace if it was looking, you know, a little bit too stark, which maybe it's, you know, maybe it possibly is. But yeah. But yes, again, so making, you know, sort of showing you how it's very, very easy to just transform, you know, old clothes and make them look really quite super vintage by, you know, just very little effort, really. I mean, it's just by what you're coupling them with. It's possibly by coffee dyeing them. And yeah, how you're kind of like assembling them, I suppose. But they really can look, you know, super, super vintage. So again, I've just taken some sari silk here while I was talking and just then made a little sari silk bow, because I thought, well, actually, perhaps this would be even better on this. So again, just fiddling about, trying to get it, you know, to a good size, or, you know, shape and size. So again, you know, could just have like a beautiful bow there, just anywhere really. And how gorgeous and yummy does that look? So I'll just cut that down a bit. Okay. You know, could just have that anywhere really. And then again, could just attach the lace, the book plate. And then I've got one of my little cabochons there with the velvet trim. Just again, to give you ideas and show you, you know, just how easily all these covers can look, you know, come together and look so, so, so vintage. So yeah, I mean, I really hope that you've got some ideas there and feel kind of inspired to maybe get some of your old clothes out, or some of your grandchildren's clothes, or your children's clothes, or, you know, anything and everything really. And yeah, hopefully kind of, you know, make some really gorgeous covers. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks then. Bye.